Thank you very much, Ceann Comhairle. Listen, we all know the origins and the reason for this revised estimate. By the way, I'll be sharing my deputy, my friend here, will have 2 minutes at the end. This is as a result of the government's mismanagement of the process to deliver the National Children's Hospital. We're well aware that there are still many outstanding questions in relation to how we arrived at this sorry state, as was indicated in the Minister's apology to the House last week when he was initially informed of the potential of an overrun, which, as the government words say, crystallised some months thereafter. There has been much meanderings, secrecy, hiding behind various FOIs in relation to questions that remain unanswered. And I just assume and expect that the same procrastination won't be in vogue when PwC look for information that has not been forthcoming for that reason when I asked it recently. There will, of course, be ongoing and continued scrutiny by the relevant Oireachtas committees, and your own Secretary-General will, of course, of your department will be appearing before one of those committees in the coming days, and that too will offer an opportunity for a further attempt to be made by members of this House to establish if it was more a rushed exercise on the part of government to get this project started, and in doing so, in their efforts to maximise the political gain there may be from getting that project started, parallel to that, and at the same time took their eye off the ball in relation to the process that had been approved for the granting of such projects and the contracts associated with them, because they've obviously proven to be very porous in the way in which they've been given. And I know there's been, in the course of this information that you're given to the Dáil, which says a lot but doesn't say enough, unfortunately, you did mention that there are proposals that you are bringing forward in relation to how you can better provide for the provision of such contracts and the way in which they're devised. And I know that that preempts and is not exclusive from the government's perspective, because it may well be that the information that emanates from the investigation might make further recommendations too. And of course, you will be conscious of what questions are asked and the answers that flow back from various members of your own department and others. For example, as I've asked you last week and I still await an answer on, there was 500 million almost made available by the European Investment Bank to the project also. And I expect, no doubt, that there was a process entered into with them, which is predominantly the case, that there would be a reporting mechanism between yourselves and the European Investment Bank in relation to the investment that they had made, notwithstanding the fact that when they made the offer, it amounted to about 50% of the total cost, and now is no more than 30% at this juncture. Because again, what we'll be seeking to ascertain in the coming weeks and months, is there a handle on the costs? Has it been arrested? Can you assure the public, can you assure us who represent the public, that you won't be bringing forward further revisions of estimates, let alone this 100 million that we have before the House today? And it doesn't stop at that, as you well know. There's 450 million to be made up. So we expect, and you say that in the spring statement you'll give us details of what effect it will have on the National Development Plan in relation to capital expenditure for next year and the years after. And I would hope that would be forthcoming. But I mean, just perusing through some of the details here, in relation to the 16 million that has been taken from the Community Development Department and the Department of Housing, Planning and Local Government, it's explained by this wording: an updating of the scheduled drawdown of 16 million from the two Project Ireland 2040 regeneration funds, which are being profiled for expenditure throughout the course of both 2019 and 2020 without delays in project planning, design and delivery. That's fair gobbledygook to me, to be quite honest. It's been profiled, so it's been spent over the course of 2019 and 20. Well, is there 16 million coming off 2019? It goes on to say, well, 13 of it will, but it doesn't give us the details as to where. And that's the sort of information our constituents want to know. If you say, or if the Taoiseach says here yesterday, that we shouldn't be scaremongering, we shouldn't be given the impression that the knock-on effects of this is in relation to every capital expenditure that has been made by government in our constituency, well then prove it to us. Where's the 3 million from rural and community development? What projects? What regeneration projects are being affected? And in relation to the 13 million from the Department of Housing, Planning and Local Government, is that in the same area or is it not? And what exactly does it contain? Reprofiling, it says then further to that, of payments of 4 million under certain programmes of investment in communication, climate change and environment. I'm afraid, as much as you want to enlighten us, that's not enough. And I would hope and expect in the coming days we get further clarification of exactly what that is. 3 million from the reprofiling of investment under the flood risk management programme of the Office of Public Works to allow for capacity to be built up over the course of the NDP period. I want to know what's the bread and butter details of what projects is being affected. There are works ongoing and continuing, I'm told, in the future in relation to flood relief and flood management on the Shannon in my own constituency. What projects within that remit are being lost? What commitments can I maintain to my constituents when they ask, is there inclusion or is there not, or what is the knock-on effect? 2 million through changes to the timing of payments relating to certain capital works by the Department of Culture, Heritage and the Gaeltacht. Again, commitment being given by government to me and to my colleagues in my constituency in relation to an arts centre in Tullamore that was approved 10 years ago but has been reprofiled, to use your own word, from their perspective to cut the cloth to measure, and they need extra expenditure which we're told is in the offing. But now we're told there's 2 million be cut from the budget for the same thing itself. So I and my constituents in Tullamore, for example, need a commitment one way or the other in relation to that. They've raised the guts of 180 or 200,000 themselves. Do they have to go out and raise it again? That's what I need to know, and that's what I'm expected to know from the details that is put before the House and to those that are elected and represented within it. There are other details such as that, and I'm sure we'll seek to clarify them in the coming days in relation to written applications or written confirmation that I would expect from the various departments, or maybe from you as the lead department, because it's your decision ultimately, based on your consultation with your colleagues across the cabinet table, that have led to this. But make no mistake about it, this is something that could have been going on if the information had been brought to us way back in September. If it had been brought to you, you might have said, despite the fact that you didn't say during your consultations with the Department of Health in relation to current expenditure, which I accept and your word on that, but I can't understand or comprehend how you never said at any stage, Jesus, how are we getting on with the capital expenditure here? Are we on target there? Are we on profile there? Or is it something I'm going to have to go before the Dáil and rectify in the coming year, or whatever? But that question wasn't asked. And in the absence of that being asked, we are now only debating the revision that we have here in front of us. And it's because of the delay and the procrastination that I've mentioned, we don't have the specific details. And I, for one, speaking on behalf of my party, will insist and expect the minute details. So, as I said, in various projects throughout the country, we can be straight with our constituents, which is nothing more than they would expect.